Manny Pacquiao battles to a draw with Mario Barrios, which a lot of people felt that Mario Barrios lost that fight. I didn't score it, but just watching it, I felt that Mario Barrios lost that fight. Pretty easily to me. I feel like Manny Pacquiao worked him regardless of age or regardless of having some type of sympathy for older opponent. I felt that Pacquiao worked him. Thought he landed cleaner shots. I felt like even when in Mario Barrios, landed some things, it was very timid. He wasn't confident. He was pretty much punching at the target. He wasn't punching through the target. He was landing some good shots, but he just never really, Barrios don't seem like the type of guy that has a personality of aggression. You got some fighters that'll be nice and like Pacquiao, and then come fight night, he'll turn into a beast, come fight. And Barrios just seemed like a nice guy in and out the ring. And, for that part, I agree with, I think what one of the commentators said, I forget who it was. It wasn't Mares, but one of the commentators said that he felt that Pacquiao Barrios could have won that fight on his jab. And early on, Pacquiao didn't really have the agility to get away from the jab, and really, and that's really not a Mexican thing. Mexicans, they have good jabs, but they don't utilize them. Like he literally could have, took that jab and really threw it really stiff, and Pacquiao really had no answers because he's not as agile as he used to, and he could have made Pacquiao really work to get past the jab, and he didn't. And that's one of the issues with Hispanic fighters, is that, especially Mexican fighters, they just won't utilize the jab. You got to remember, in the first Fondor-Tim Tszyu fight, in the very first one, not the one tonight, the only reason, Fondor started using the jab is because Tim Tszyu was cut. He was cut, and then he started using the jab, and he was like, if I fight behind the jab at 6'7", I should be straight. And for the most part, Barrios could have really just used that jab and used the two and dropped the three in there when he felt like it. He didn't do it. I don't know if it was the conditioning. I don't know if it was, Pacquiao's timing and power, and he would do that slow ass dip. He was very slow in there tonight, Pacquiao. But like I said in one of my videos, I said that, he has some knowledge. He has some technique that he can hang his hat on. He's just not all athleticism. And tonight you seen it, he took his time. And for me, it just seemed like a stretch about 4 or 5 rounds. He just really cleaned up where Barrios didn't do much. And even one of the rounds that was up for grabs, and like Pacquiao closed the round out a lot better. And I think a lot of people may think that he got sympathy because he was a 46-year-old fighter, trying to be the first Hall of Famer to regain a championship. And people were just saying he won the fight because he was old. I think legitimately, old or not old, in his prime or not in his prime, I felt legitimately he won that fight. Yeah, legitimately he won that fight. I don't think it was close. I think he might have run it by 3 or 4 rounds, honestly. I just felt like he just outpointed him and landed the cleaner, more effective shots. And the shots that Barrios did land some clean shots that made the crowd go, ooh, nah. He landed some good counter shots, so I can't take that away from him. Barrios did land some clean shit, but it just seemed like Barrios don't have no defense, and Barrios just don't have no good aggression. He's not an aggressive enough fighter. You kind of seeing that throughout sports. If you look at, they did the video about the NBA players getting drafted this year saying they don't have no hunger. Like, it's more and more feminine. It's becoming more and more feminine society. When you start seeing, you used to see guys coming to, sports hungry, and the guys are not hungry no more. They're more, passive or business savvy or worried about their money. They don't have the killer instinct anymore. And you see that Barrios, a lot of Mexicans, Mexican Americans, Mexicans, they used to come with a killer instinct. And they used to come with a killer instinct. They used to come with a killer instinct. And, now it just seemed like across in this Western society, there's just not no killers no more. And Barrios is just, he seemed like to be a nice guy outside the ring, and he don't have an alter ego like the Hawk or and he turned into beast or something like that. He just, to me in the ring, he's too passive. You see a phenomenal amount of talent, natural power, really good jab, good offense. He throw good punches. Don't have a great defense, but great athleticism. I think he's a really good athlete. He just don't have a killer instinct that you want to see in a lot of these fight in your fighter. Manny Pacquiao, yeah, he smiled, but he's still trying to take your head off, and that take the 46-year-old out of it. I felt that I just felt that he just won the fight. Just looking at it and eyeballing it, I just feel like he won the fight. He should have recaptured the title, but I believe they called it a majority draw. Yeah, I felt like he won. But like I said, Barrios did have his moments. So, Barrios really did have his moments. Barrios had his moments. That's a fact. I seen Barrios put 2 or 3 punches together and push Pacquiao back. And like the commentator said, if he just wanted to throw a jab, he could have won on a jab alone. But he don't, like, on all the athleticism that Barrios got, he not slick. And that's one thing. Being athletic don't mean you slick. When you start talking about guys like Amir Khan and you start talking about guys like Mario Barrios or even a guy like Manny Pacquiao, they're athletic. They're not slick. You know what I'm saying? Look at guys like James Toney, Floyd Mayweather. You know what I'm saying? Those guys, even Usyk is slick. It's just not nothing to do with your athleticism. You know what I'm saying? And some of these guys, Bernard, some of these guys are just not slick. And they just don't really have the rhythmic or, what I'm saying? And Barrios is just like a broomstick, like I was saying about Earl Spence. He's like a broomstick when he's standing on the inside. Some guys don't have the bend. That's my fan in the back. Some guys don't have the bend. They don't have the nothing. They just, and Barrios, for him to be as stiff as he is, they can't really, at this point, make him a master of getting his head off the line and kind of being elusive. But, then, you start to kind of get into the Derrick James thing. You use your feet to get off the line. So they should be teaching Barrios to use his feet to get off that line. And same thing with Tim Tszyu. Yeah, his head is not going to stay off the line. He's not going to be a guy that's going to go like this religiously. Okay, use the feet to get you off the line. Use the feet to show angles and to turn your opponent to be your defense. And Barrios is just straight back, straight forward. It's not, off to the side, taking angles. Pacquiao ain't like one of those. Like I said, he not slick. Well, Pacquiao use angles, use feints and angles. He ain't really dipping like that. Pacquiao just turning, in his best. Tonight, you see him dip a little bit, and that's because he's slower. He older in his prime. He was just, but Barrios is just too stiff. He too stiff. He ain't, he had been down and, But as far as using angles, him and Tim Tszyu is right on that line. They have to use, at this point of their career, you ain't going to be able to kind of, it's too late for that. But you can teach them that, you can teach them to get use their legs, get off that line, take an angle, step over to the creator. And if I feel like Tim Tszyu tonight would have, used angles and stepped over, he could have beat, Fondor. He could have hit with Fondor with shots he didn't see coming using angles. He could have used angles for shots he didn't see coming. But you see two fighters who don't really feint, and then for Barrios, he got athleticism. So a feint could really, like feints and, foot feints and hand fakes can help him using the jab. But Mexicans refuse to use the jab on a consistent basis. Even if it's a life or death situation, like I said, Barrios could have really used that jab but he's just so stiff. He walking right in the line, straight, back, pull back, straight. Instead of stepping over, creating an angle that's going to make it easier for you. A lot of these guys is like mad stiff. The boys, Tszyu tonight, Barrios, stiff. They stiff, straight line, forward, straight back. Not stepping off to the side, not pivoting, nothing. So I said, Barrios tonight, you called it a draw. I feel like it was a missed opportunity. And they were saying during the broadcast, You know, why did Pacquiao pick me? Well, we all like, be real with yourself. You terrible. You trash. Face swell up. You know, slow. I mean, not slow, but just lack aggression. You don't really want to hurt your opponent. I mean, you know, good power, but like I said, man, you know, you're very advantageous in what PBC has done. They put you in a position. I mean, you made a bunch of money that you shouldn't have made. I don't know what you did to get into the great favor PBC, but you know, from the Tank fight, and maybe it was just doing what they say do. Don't fight free, just fight Tank, fight Keith. You know, shout out to you. They got you a title versus Ugas. You got to fight versus Pacquiao. But honestly, he just too nice. I'm not saying he trash. He just too nice. And then, you know, you too stiff. Your head stay on that line, and that's why I feel like you lost tonight. So I feel like Pacquiao won by a few rounds, just eyeballing it. But hey, let me know what you girls and guys think. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And the subscribe button is the bell icon button. Hit all notifications, increase your chance to get notifications. We go live or drop video. Hit the link in the description. The link tree you can find me on X, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Cash App, Venmo. It's CJ Good 313 on the bottom screen. PayPal link in the description. Check out the fight reaction playlist for more videos like this. Appreciate the love and support. Let me know what you girls and guys think in the comment section. Peace.